A lot of people making money already off of the marijuana boom. Ted Jenkin with Oxygen Financial. So if you don't live in a state that has decriminalized it, like Denver or California, or even a state that's loosened up the reins on the medicinal purposes like Florida just has, how do you make money from your couch?
Well, I think everyone is, they get this idea of that I'm going to own a dispensary or I'm going to own a grow farm. But there are a lot of companies now that are actually getting into the public marketplace where you can make money. One of the big ones is looking at some of the pharmaceutical companies and the pipelines that they have for making prescription drugs or developing drugs that can help not only as painkillers, but there are serious diseases that are out there that they're starting to try to treat using marijuana that can help make life easier. A good example is Parkinson's. If you've ever watched the YouTube video, there's a great YouTube video that shows somebody using marijuana and it actually helping, calm their affliction.
There's a lot of those videos. Yeah. There's a lot of those videos that are just tweaking out on the couch and are like, here, take a bong rip. Yeah. And the dude stops freaking out.
And don't we want everybody, if it works for that, how can anybody have a problem with that? If it makes somebody sick, feel better and do better.
Well, here's the thing, is that for years, marijuana was so taboo, right? It's so bad. But now we're finding excuses to decriminalize it because it makes so much money, because we've run out of options to make money. So all these things that people for years thought were immoral and taboo, casinos and marijuana and all this stuff, they're not like that anymore because it's the only thing left to make money off of, right?
Well, it's so true. Everyone knows that history has a way of repeating itself. And in the 1920s, when there was prohibition in this country, the only reason that alcohol got legal in 1933 was that we ran out of money. We had the Great Depression, and the government needed to bring in revenue. Well, now, fast forward the tape 90 years later, we're going to reach $20 trillion in debt. We're not going to make all this up from tax revenues, so marijuana could be part of the solution to help our debt problem.
I think it totally is.
It's funny. A bunch of the hypocrites all these years sat there on their high moral horses.
Marijuana's bad.
It was what I was taught for all my life. And really? I can be a hero and provide jobs. That's my argument with the casinos.
Right.
If done properly and policed properly, and that's what it has to be. It just can't be willy-nilly.
It can't be, and that's what we've talked about. If you do the casino and you do it right, and there's just one location, but, nobody wants them popping up in every convenience store. I don't want to see it like that. I just want one location. And with the marijuana, I want all sick people to get it, and I guess recreation, if it's okay, but should it be in the public eye? That's my thing. Should you see somebody walking down the road smoking a joint? Should you see somebody on an outdoor patio, at a brew pub smoking pot?
If you can see someone having a beer on a patio, there's no reason you can't see someone smoking a joint on a patio.
But we've never seen it. It's always a behind the wall, behind the house, hidden thing.
I'm not a huge. I think it should be looked at like cigarette smoking is that there's a time and place. You got areas you can't smoke in restaurants anymore. I don't need somebody lighting up a joint.
Exactly.
At a restaurant when my kid's in there and they're going to get high off of it.
But if it's a smoking restaurant, well, obviously you won't be able to smoke weed wherever you can't smoke cigarettes. But if it's a bar where smoking cigarettes is allowed, there's no reason to not smoke weed there.
Yeah, it's different.
Well, in a lot of these states now, actually, guys, it's not really, a lot of people aren't really smoking. You're seeing a lot of consumption of edibles.
Edibles, yeah.
And so, most people think about edibles as brownies or cookies, but they have molds for gummy bears and lollipops. They have basically sprinkling that you can put on your coffee now to get the morning buzz. There are actually K-cups that are out there. If you look on the internet now, you can have a K-cup for your Keurig that has a little bit of sprinkle of pot in it.
Make it yourself, actually.
What's better, the marijuana one or English breakfast? It's a decision.
It's very
Earl Grey for you?
It's a very tough choice.
Earl Grey, English breakfast, or marijuana?
So Ted, tell people, you started with how you can make money off of this.
Right.
And how do you do that? Let's just say you only have a couple dollars that you want to invest. All these things that we're talking about here. How do people get started with this?
Well, this is where sometimes when you look at the public stock market, start to use the common common sense that obviously if more people can grow like a state like California, where legally you'll be able to grow 6 pot plants beginning in January of 2018, you have big fertilizer companies out there. I can't mention the names on the internet today on the show, but there are companies out there that make the fertilizer that help these grow farms or small 6 pot plants in your backyard and things like that are actually doing really well already in the stock market and will continue to as this becomes more legalized across the United States.
So do you invest in the stock market for these companies, or do you invest in the company?
Well,
because there's a difference, right?
Yeah, there are some companies that are private today. A good example is a company like PayQuick. PayQuick is a payment processing system. It's like a PayPal for pot. Because just remember, you can't legally use the banking system today. You can't use a debit card or a credit card. You can't. So it's a cash business, and that's problematic. So you have companies like that today that if you can get into them privately, it could be a good idea. Or, like I said, there are public companies today that you may be able to partake in.
But you've got a full list of this. So if I'm just walking into Oxygen Financial and I'm like, look, man, I'm not a pot smoker, but I see the future. The future is bright. This is just like prohibition, like we just talked about in Thursday. They're going to need to do this. I want in. There are ways that you can guide people.
You could have a few $1,000s and put a few $100s into 4 or 5 different companies, and obviously a few of them may not succeed here, but a few of them could succeed really well. That could be a way to do it. Or I'm not as big of a fan in trying to invest money into a grow farm unless you really know the business. It's one of those things. Don't just give money to somebody. It's like owning a bar or a restaurant, right? You just want to give somebody money if you don't understand the business. If you do, then there could be a good private opportunity to get invested in, but you really need to understand where your money's going and watch it.
It's crazy to see, especially a lot of these celebrities that have a lot of money and they go out to Denver or California and they just buy up all this land and they start growing. They just start growing. It's like I did this as a kid in the attic or in the basement, and now I can do it legally as an adult, and they're bringing in millions and millions of dollars.
It's like no more vineyards. Wine's going to go away. Everybody's growing pot instead.
Screw the grapes. Grow the weed.
You make more money. That's what you do.
Well, and what's funny is like even in social media, guys, people talk about, Facebook and Snapchat just went public, but there's a company called Massroots now, which is the biggest social media platform for peer-to-peer people talking about cannabis. So again, every time an industry evolves, there could be a social platform that evolves around it. And so, there's companies like that. There's actually a company called Doobie, D-U-B-Y, that's basically like a peer-to-peer. Yeah. I'm no kidding. And these are, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you had companies like Facebook and not even Snapchat, not even 10 years, that now are multi-billion-dollar companies on the stock market.
Nate, I've never heard you pay attention this much to TED. You're interested in investing, aren't you?
I'm looking up all these websites that he's talking about.
Massroots is a big one. And then seriously, Doobie, D-U-B-Y. Yeah, there it is on the screen. So
now, if I wanted to make money, could I invest in Nate's weed dealer? Maybe get him a newer car, maybe more,
sure,
more stock.
I'd ask for 20 points.
More inventory. That's the word I was looking for.
Inventory.
More inventory. Maybe we can get your dealer on the air. Nate,
let's interview your dealer.
And we can bring him in, or her, I don't know.
We have no idea.
And find ways to invest in Nate's weed dealer.
Where does your dealer get it? Or does your dealer grow it? And can Bailey and I get in on it? Maybe Ted wants to get on it.
I don't know. I just leave money in a mason jar in the woods, and I go back and it's in there.
So do we invest in the woods?
I want to own that acreage.
Well, I'll tell you guys something really interesting just in our business is that a lot of people, if they do edibles or they smoke marijuana and they have to apply for something like life insurance, they typically assume that they're going to get declined. Or they'll get rated as a smoker, or they say, look, how long before I flush this out of my system? Well, because marijuana is legalized now medically in 28 states and it's going to be recreational in 8, the insurance companies have changed their tune. So depending upon how often you smoke, it could be considered celebratory joints, or you could just be considered an occasional user and actually get rated as a preferred non-smoker individual if you know the right insurance companies to go to. Wow. That's how much the world is changing today because marijuana is now partially legalized across the country.
Because some insurance companies won't, if you smoke cigars, they get upset with you and they raise your rates. Imagine marijuana.
That's right.
It's amazing. Here in the state of Georgia, we're close to passing the bill on medical marijuana.
Right, close.
But we're not there.
But we can't get a destination.
You have a few places here in Georgia
you want
where
that gambling, I know.
It just amazes me how stupid people can be.
Yeah, the casino is a no-brainer. We should have that. And then in Georgia now, if it's under 0.5 THC, you have some places here that sell like lozenges or cannabis oil or things like that. But we'll get there. I mean, it's only a matter of time. We'll get there. And it's really what Jason said in the beginning is right. I think we're going to get there because of a revenue issue.
Yep.
It's not so much a social issue. We just need cash.
And gambling will be next. Gambling will be next.
Can't wait for all those gray hairs to be hypocrites and come up with their excuses and spin it.
Right.
You know.
So how can we invest in marijuana?
Well, I couldn't tell you all the actual companies on the radio, but if you go to oxygenfinancial.net, I'll give you my free guide now on the 10 places on where to invest in the marijuana business. If you're interested and you think you can make some money and it makes sense, go to the website and we'll talk about it.
And Ted, I'm ashamed. You are a non-smoker. You just see a money-making opportunity.
Always.
Yeah. And by the way, when he says there's 10 different places where you can make money, it's 10 different street corners. It's 10 different guys' names.
And Nate's Mason jar.
All right, there you go. Headlines, your third round here up next. If you want in.